All right, shalom, shalom, chaverim. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live, and a few things we're going to cover this evening, friends. I wish I'd have been here a little bit earlier, but we have run into the situation of our daughter getting very, very sick. Ariella was throwing up quite a bit today, so we had to rush her to the hospital. Ends up being it's a stomach virus from what they can tell. So she's still really sick tonight. I just got back in. Like I said, I was hoping to get back sooner. But all things happen for good to them that love the Lord, as we know the biblical passages says. And I'm going to share just a little touch of that tonight because I picked up the Bible and took it with me. I figured I'll be there for a while. And I really discovered something interesting here in the book of Jude. But before we go into that, let me get you guys rolling here on exactly what the title of our broadcast is. And I do appreciate your prayers for our daughter and her recovery. And by the way, too, speaking of my daughter and her sickness, Yana will be going back to the United States. I'll be here in Europe a little bit longer. She needs to do more of her infusions in America. So she's got to go back there for a few weeks there, and then she'll be coming back here to Europe, kind of taking care of two things at one time for us. So do keep her in your prayers, and we do need to possibly start another GoFundMe for her. I need her to meet with the doctors while she's there. That's why she's going. And to get an update on her condition for them to take a better look. I know they're already saying she needs another 9 months of treatment, but we want to get a better idea of what's happening. So she's going to come back to the U.S. for a few weeks there, and so do pray for her. And of course, she will have to continue the treatment. And there, she's able to get a much higher dose than what we can here in Europe. Europe doesn't do quite a high dose as what they do in the U.S. So this is one reason why she needs to go back for a short period of time. Anyway, getting into the situation right here. The Drive is reporting, in the title of their article here, American generals say adversaries are jamming into AC-130 gunships in Syria. This is getting to be a very, very serious situation over Syria there when it comes to a situation that could spiral completely out of control and end up into a massive war between Russia and the United States. And says the head of U.S. Special Operations Command says unspecified opponents in Syria, almost certainly Russia or Russian support forces, have reportedly launched electronic warfare attacks against U.S. Air Force AC-130 gunships operating in the country, as well as other communication links. This is the latest in a string of reports that highlight the growing threat of the jamming and other non-kinetic attacks to American military activities in the region and in general. Very troubling, and of course we got to watch this. And I don't really know what to say other than what could you expect. I mean, we're finding out today, as we reported to you in a quick take earlier today, that the OPCW, who is the Independent Chemical Inspection Operation, has determined on the first location that there were no chemical weapons found there. And I do see some of the comments. I don't get to see all the comments myself, but I get to see some. And I know that there are people that have written and said, Russia's had time to clean up the mess, etc. They wouldn't allow the inspectors in. The door was wide open for the inspectors. And then the United States and Britain and France decided to bomb the place. And that caused a completely different scenario. Well, you might say, well, as soon as the bombing was over, why couldn't they go in then? Well, the bombing itself created a chain of events because ISIS militants, Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, all the different groups, even the White Helmets, the groups that they're behind, they all moved in and took advantage of the vacuum to try to once again get some advances there. It's probably one of the reasons why the three nations did the attack that they did, because the Syrian army was making such great strides in eastern Ghouta, and to the point to where the jihadists were being completely eliminated in these regions, and they had such a massive network of tunnels to be able to thwart the Syrian army in ways unheard of. And they used the Syrian people as slave labor to build it. I mean, it reminds me so much of the Holocaust, when I look at the things that are happening there. Anyway, though, that's just one issue there. Then we also have this here. This kind of actually, before I go to the Fox News one here, this was one that really was interesting. This is Judge Knapp. He's interviewing a senator, I believe it is. I want to play you a clip of this because, again, the growing number of those that are recognizing that the chemical attack in Syria was either fabricated, false, whatever the case may be. We are really seeing a growing change, and I just want to play a little bit of this. Ron Paul placed this up on his website, so I want you guys to be able to hear this as well. Listen to this.
Hi, Judge Andrew Napolitano here, and you are on Freedom Watch with my good friend and guest this week, Representative Tom Massey from the great state of Kentucky. Congressman, I want to talk to you about war and the president using the instruments of war without authorization. Where did he get the authority to drop 110 bombs on military and civilian targets in Syria 2 weeks ago?
I asked that question of the Secretary of State, of General Mattis, the Director of National Intelligence, in a classified briefing, and they told me that he derives the power from Article 2, Section 2. And so I was like, let me get this straight. You're not relying on an AUMF, and you're not relying on the War Powers Act. They confirmed they are relying on one statement in the Constitution that says only this: the president is the commander-in-chief. From that, they think they derive all of this power, which is wrong and it's unconstitutional.
Now, as we know, only the Congress can declare war. And in the absence of a declaration of war, these are international treaties and federal statutes that the president is sworn to uphold. He can only use the military in defense of an actual attack on the United States, to repel an attack that is imminent, like minutes or hours away, to defend American persons or property from foreign attack overseas, or pursuant to a treaty we have with an ally when the ally has been attacked. On top of all that, we're a member of the UN treaty along with Syria. So he didn't go to Congress, he didn't go to the UN, and he didn't rely on any law. Is there any uproar in the Congress over this, Congressman Massey?
Well, the Constitution is only as good as the members of Congress who are willing to defend it. And no, there's not enough uproar here. Walter Jones and Justin Amash, they are concerned. There are some.
All right, that just kind of give you an idea of what's going on there. More and more, and this is a Republican senator that comes out, or congressman, I forget which one it was, that actually showing us that the evidence is just not there. And so it's very troubling. In fact, by the way, I am seeing some people that have made comment about being able to moderate. We do need to get a couple of moderators in here if you have the time to be able to volunteer. Just shoot me an email over at IsraeliNewsLive@gmail.com or StephenBennoon@gmail.com, either one. I do get hundreds of emails a day, so please be patient. I'll try to find yours there. If you would put it in the title there, moderator, that would help me to just narrow it down. So I really appreciate that, Jesse, and others that have mentioned that in there. So at any point, let me just say this here, that what we have besides that also going on, we have on Fox here, Senator John Kennedy. This man was pretty bold in his statements here. Of course, he's all about going to war. Listen to what he has to say here. Talking about slapping Russia in the face.
He's a very cerebral guy. He tries to be farsighted. Let me tell you my concern. And I'm delighted to have France and the people of France as an ally. I thank them so much for helping us in Syria. But I wonder if President Macron's a little bit naive. I think he thinks that we can reason with the Ayatollah in Iran and Kim Jong-un in North Korea and President Putin in Russia. I hope he's right, and you should talk and try diplomacy. But there are some folks who understand strength. And I think that in dealing with Putin and the Ayatollah and Kim Jong-un from weakness is like trying to hand feed a shark. I think President Putin, for example, understands one thing. You've got to hit him right in the face. I think he understands those sanctions. I think Kim Jong-un does too. I think Kim Jong-un saw what happened in Syria. I'm not saying that you don't try to reason with your adversaries, but as President Macron wants us to. But there are just some bad people in this world. They're not sick. They're not confused. It's not a question that mom or daddy didn't love them enough. They're just bad people.
You don't sit there and wonder.
Can you imagine that? Punch Putin in the face, the guy says. I mean, we've got enough warmongers in Washington as is, not to add more onto there. All right, let me go real quick. A couple other things here real quick, too, that I wanted to share with you guys. I got a bell ringing in here. That means the rabbit is playing with a bell ball. I got to get him moved out of my office. Anyway, jumping back over here, this just came out. And Seymour Hersh is the one speaking about this. Classified evidence, U.S. soldiers rape boys in front of their mothers. This happened in Iraq. It is it's been quite some time back, but it is very disturbing information that's coming out. I'm going to look more into it before we actually go deeper into reporting on it, but we do know Seymour Hersh is actually breaking the story on this. He says some of the worst things that happen you don't know about, okay? Videos, there are women there. Some of you may have read that they were passing letters out, communications out to their men. This is at Abu Ghraib. The women were passing messages out saying, please come and kill me because of what's happened. And basically what happened is that those women were arrested with young boys, children in cases that have that have been recorded. The boys were sodomized with the cameras rolling. This is some latest information coming out, very troubling indeed, that happened in Abu Ghraib. And this is on itrustnaturalcures.com. Yes, classified evidence, U.S. soldiers rape boys front of mothers. So we'll leave a link to that for you guys. But as I was going to say, though, I want to take you, though, real quick here. I want to share with you a little insight on this. And we're actually going to do an in-depth video about this tomorrow. I'll actually be uploading it on Patreon. And then I will probably, mainly because I'm going to probably say a few more other things on there. And then I'm also going to try to record it here for Israeli News Live. But at least it will be on Patreon first here. So just look at some of the basic ideas here, and then I'm going to really go into this tomorrow. Jude, the servant of Jesus Christ and brother of James, to them that are sanctified by God the Father and preserved in Jesus Christ, mercy and you, peace and love be multiplied. Beloved, when I gave all diligence to write unto you of the common salvation, it was needful for me to write unto you and exhort you, okay, that you should earnestly contend for the faith which was once delivered unto the saints. And so many ministers preach about this particular verse here. All right. Now, I want to share with you just a little insight on this, and then I'll go into it tomorrow with you. For there are certain men crept in unawares who were before of old ordained to this condemnation. Ungodly men, turning the grace of our God into lasciviousness. I can't pronounce the word right. It's actually lust. And denying the only Lord God and our Lord Jesus Christ. You know who he's talking about? Fallen angels. And what's interesting is you really go through the book of Jude, you'll find out that these fallen angels keep coming back, which is exactly, or at least through their, bringing children back, I should say, on the earth, which is exactly what I had taught recently in the Antarctica video that I did. That's got like 700,000 views on there. All right, so watch this. I will therefore put you in remembrance, though you once knew this, how that the Lord, having saved the people out of the land of Egypt, afterwards or afterward, destroyed them that believe not. Why would he destroy them? All right. Jude is actually letting the people know, and they undoubtedly must have known this back then, that there was already an inbreeding once again. Much like what we find when the children of Israel go to the promised land and they have to drive the occupants out because there's giants in the land. All right. And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in the everlasting change under the darkness, under the great judgment of that great day. Now watch this. Even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth for an example of suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. A strange flesh is these fallen ones that he's talking about up here. I'm going to go into this with you guys tomorrow. It's really, really going to blow your mind away. He even speaks about a specific doctrine that these fallen ones that are reserved for the judgment of darkness, he speaks about one doctrine that they hate. And you really got to watch carefully. They hate the doctrine of the two witnesses. That's something interesting. Wait till I share this with you tomorrow. Really a blessing. God bless all of you. Really appreciate it. You guys being here this evening. I apologize for coming in so late and not really getting a chance to really speak with you guys more in depth there. Again, those of you that are joining here late, our daughter had ended up in the hospital today. We weren't really sure. She has a very serious history of things when she was younger. And we were afraid that she was getting sick like that, but it ended up being a stomach flu. So she's been in and out of the hospital many, many times for kidney infections, things like that. And that's what we were concerned about, because it starts with the headaches, leg aches, and vomiting, and she'd already got to the vomiting part. But they sent her back home. They give her what she needed to be able to take care of it, and didn't have any sign of infection, so it looks like just a virus. So do keep her in your prayers. We appreciate that and love you guys so much. And thank you so much of you guys for the thumbs up on the video there, because there's always somebody going to thumbs down it. But anyway, appreciate that as well. I can't wait to go into this with you guys tomorrow. Those of you that that are on Patreon, I'm going to share it with you guys first, and maybe touch on a few other little things while we're at it. So be ready. It'll be on tomorrow. Probably by the time tomorrow afternoon, by the time you guys are getting off work tomorrow afternoon, it'll already be up and ready for you. Blessings to you all. God bless you. We love you, and shalom.